Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
Hello everybody, it's George the Antique Nomad, and I am pleased to bring you my recap of last month's eBay sales. This is the what's sold out of the September 2022 eBay listings. I do an eBay video where I list 20 items every month, and it goes first to my level 2 and level 3 members. They get early access because they sponsor it, and then it goes out to everybody so you can see how things that I'm putting on eBay auctions fare in the actual marketplace. And then we recap, and this is the recap. So let's take a look at what we sold last month and what we didn't, and talk about what went well, what we could have done differently, and why and how eBay is working right now. Okay, let's start with this piece. This was a very fun, very pretty purse that you can see had really nice detail. And it's made of celluloid. It's 1930s. I thought it was very cute with this brocade. Now, I think it might have sold for a little bit more if it was a different color. Browns are not necessarily a color that is currently hot and active in fashion. And this has a nice sort of a russet rose sort of a overtone, but you didn't really necessarily get that out of the pictures. Nonetheless, it did sell, and it sold for a pretty good price. It went for $41 on 3 bids, and for the type of item that was definitely in the acceptable range at the price that it sold at. Given what it was, the condition was really amazing, and it went to a viewer who I really enjoy, so it's always a happy thing when it ends up with the right person. This item sold with 11 bids. I thought it might get quite a few because it's an original chrome first generation 1960s Ford Mustang Fender Ornament, as opposed to the gold tone ones that have been found recently, new old stock, and are being sold by the gross for a lot less money. So I was happy to see this one as it should. It went for $48 on 11 bids. I have another Mustang item in this month's eBay, so when the next eBay round comes out, you will see more Ford Mustang stuff. Can't go wrong with Ford Mustang or Ford Thunderbird. Pretty much anything from those two cars is going to sell, because there's a lot more people who love those cars than can actually have an original edition, so they're willing to buy parts and emblems and promotional cars and other things that are related to them. This sold. It got 1 bid at the opening price. I was satisfied with that because I bought it with the idea that it might sell in the $50 range, and it did. This is a very strange device, but this was an Albo Telescope used to look around corners, made by a very famous clock company in Cincinnati. During the war, the government gave contracts to people to do all sorts of things that were outside their normal range of business, and this is one of them. So I was pleased that it went, and it's the kind of thing that honestly it might have sold for more at a show where people could actually take a look and really make sure that it worked, because you can't really tell much from this picture here, but it did work well, and the person who got it seemed to be very happy with it. These went on 1 bid for $19.99, the opening bid. I figured they were worth between $20 and $25. They're a very cute pair of Bakelite Ear Clips, but they're different because of these daisies, which were done in a different material, a different kind of plastic that is not Bakelite. So this is right at that transition point where Bakelite is starting to phase out of use, and that would be sometime around 1950. I thought they were cute as could be. I got them very inexpensively, and I was happy to pass them on. I'm glad that they went to somebody who hopefully is going to wear them, because they're great fall colors and it's perfect for right now. Now this piece is a good example. I was very happy with what I got because I only paid $10, so I tripled my money. But this is a good example of where when I bought it I was really excited because I saw one had sold for $50. Well, you know, it pays to be the first one to have a piece online for a while, because one had recently sold for $50. Well, that meant everybody who was willing to pay that price had a chance at it, and so this one sold for a little bit less. Perhaps if I had waited longer and given it more distance from the last one that sold, it might have gone for a higher price. Or someone could have found a warehouse with a stack of them and suddenly the prices go down. So, you know, at some point you just have to decide what you are satisfied to have. And if you get that, be happy, take it, and move on, because there's so many other wonderful things to buy. But this was a great piece. It was from the Miami Biltmore. And I can show you this here, the Syracuse China for Bowman Miami Biltmore by Onondaga Pottery, which is Syracuse China. And they even give credit to the design maker, Niffen and Demarest. So everybody got credit on this. This was done in about 1941, and it was definitely very much of its era with the big galleon and the floral designs. Very pretty, very good quality, and restaurant ware is a wonderful thing to collect because there's such variety in designs, and you can set a whole table with different place settings, and it's just fun. Now this little guy I was really happy to find had its label. So we were able to see that it is made by Green Mountain Manufacturing in Trout Creek, Montana. It was a very, very small little outfit that just did these. The funny thing is I'd found one about 6 months before, did not know where it came from, assumed it was Northwest because it has that burnt wood appeal similar to Whitco. And sure enough, it was a Northwest maker. Strangely enough, I just found another one of these yesterday, but that's probably because I'm in the Northwest. This was a wonderful surprise. It shouldn't have been surprising, but it was to me a little bit because we haven't really seen these in the market for so long that I wasn't sure what it would go for. But this is marked the Franks, and the Franks were the Franks of Frankoma Pottery in Oklahoma. John Frank and his daughter Janice both ran the plant at various times. His wife Grace did a line called Gracetone that had a lot of these swirling curvatures to it. And so they worked together on a lot of stuff. But what was significant about this was it said Christmas 1952 on the bottom. And that makes this a Frankoma Christmas card. They started these in 1944. There were a few years they didn't make them. They were very religious, and they wanted to make sure that they could send Christmas cards out. And during the war, they just didn't have any money. All the material they used to make their pottery was, particularly the glazes, the chemicals weren't available. And so they just weren't getting a lot of orders. And so they made little miniatures of their items and sent them to some of their friends and their big accounts as Christmas cards. And it became something that people started asking for. And so by the early 50s, they started producing them a little bit more. And by the mid-50s, it became part of their regular line. So 52 is a hard year to find. The sorghum brown is the color that this one came in. And it went for $142.50 on 15 bids. Very popular. I was really pleased and surprised. I thought it might get to 100. The fact that it got to more is an indication that there really is a lot of interest in Frankoma pottery, and particularly these more obscure lines, and especially the Christmas cards. There are people who just collect the Christmas cards. So, neat piece, and it did very well. This next item I was really pleased with because I just like Viking patio lights, and you never see this color. Now, I should have done a better job cleaning it because look how dirty that is. That is not a good way to get top value on eBay. And that is a lesson for all of us because it went for a good price, but I bet I would have gotten $25 or $30 more potentially if I had cleaned it better. I did not see how dirty that looked in that. And I did have one comment after I made the listing saying, oh, so I guess there's damage to it, because they figured I would have cleaned that off. And that was just an oversight on my part. I don't know how I didn't see that in the pictures. So pictures matter a lot, and this is a good lesson in I did well because it was an unusual piece, but I would have done even better if I had presented it better. So presentation really does count, and it is something that you need to take into account when you're getting ready to do these. Now, having said that, I'm not disappointed with the fact that it went for $36. That actually is a good price for it. It got 3 bids, and I was pleased, but it is a rather scarce color, so if you see these, if you clean them properly and show them properly, you may get better money than this. This was a very pretty piece by a company that I learned about in the process of getting this piece. This is Lindsay Art Glass. It's signed and dated 2014, as you see here on the bottom. All hand done. And it just had a really interesting color combination. And one of my regular viewers thought so too and ended up buying it. And I think paid the buy it now price of $165, and so it sold on one bid. Look how pretty that is, all that color in with all of that over decoration in the black. It just gives it so much depth. And I thought it was a really beautiful little piece. Very happy to get studio glass that is out of production and bring it to the market, because there is a secondary market for these studio glass pieces if you do your research. This sold right away. It sold for the buy it now price of $59. It was quite large and quite substantial. It is one of the Dutch, essentially it's like a gingerbread cookie mold. And look at the great design. Fun thing to hang on a wall somewhere. You can see it's one big thick piece of wood. It sold for $59, which was my buy it now price. Of course, there was a lot of shipping in this, so if you had it in person, you might be able to sell it closer to $100, because $30 went to shipping on this particular piece. These I thought were really neat, and they sold for the buy it now price of $24 on a single bid. These were early 1800s, and they are showing people in England what it's like in Pomeroon, which is an area that we now consider as part of Guyana. The French and the Dutch and the British argued over how to divide up that coast. That's why there's 3 little countries there today. But back when they first got there, well, this was a native game, which is actually based on flagellation. It does not look like a lot of fun to play, but apparently it was considered very important and part of their dance. It's called the Macquarie dance. The Macquarie is a whip made of silk grass in which the performers give each other severe blows. It is deemed essential that no sign of pain or discomposure be exhibited by the recipient. So quite fascinating. Again, these are book plates from the early 1800s. Let me show you the other one. This one is showing a river and they refer to as a sorcerer. An Indian sorcerer, everybody was an Indian then if they were not white, performing his ceremonies over the sick. And so here we have someone performing some sort of a ritual to try to help this person feel better. Fascinating stuff. It's a culture that no longer exists, of course, and so that's where a lot of the interest in these are. And I was happy to get $24 for these on the first bid. And they went to somebody who I enjoy, who I know likes historical items and buys really interesting things. So that was a fun thing to see happen as well. Okay, this piece, this went for the buy it now price of $29. It's a cute little milkweed backed silhouette. The people who made these silhouettes would actually have to go out and gather the milkweed to use as the backing, and sometimes they would put displays of dried flowers in. So these are a little more unusual than your average 1930s reverse painted glass silhouettes. And the fact that it's a tray with the little handles made it something a little more special too. So I put $29 on it because I got it right and was happy to take that amount, and that is exactly what it sold for. The next piece here, this is a Blanco Tequila Sunrise piece, and this one went to a viewer in Washington State, so I was able to deliver it, and so there was no shipping, which was nice. She bought a lot of really great glass, and this is a great piece too. The Tequila Sunrise was done around the year 2000. It was not easy to get this sort of a greenish blue-gray interior around the collar, and so that made it a little more special. And then it has this very vivid tangerine color in the base. And so it was a really fun poppy piece. She was very glad to see it when she got it, and I was really glad to bring it to her. It sold for $79, which is about the right price for these days. This piece sold right away, and I can see why, because after I priced it at $100 buy it now, and it went to New York, I realized that I made plenty of money on it, but these are selling better than I thought, and it probably could have sold for another $50. So the person who got it got a nice deal, but I'm happy for them to get it. It got there in one piece, which was the most important thing. It was a little bit expensive to ship because these are fragile. It's got the Made in Italy sticker on the bottom and that happy yellow color. And right after I sold this, I found a big yellow Empoli ewer with a green handle, which is now sitting at Epic Antique in Seattle. So they are getting coast to coast. Now there's the ones that got away. There were, I believe, out of 20 items, we sold 16. I was very happy with that. There were 4 that didn't sell. One was the Dion Quintuplets calendar. And I think that the Dion Quintuplets, as interesting as their story is, it's far enough back in time that we are not seeing as many new collectors for them as we might hope, given that they were so popular in their time. 2 of them are still living. And this was a 1944 calendar. But this one did not sell. The Green Bay Packers, well, I just didn't get any Packers fans this time. I know the Packers have been a storied team for many generations and are going through some aging issues at this point, I think. But they still have a very, very fine history, and I thought that because this was a great team with a lot of great players that perhaps this would sell at the beginning of football season. But you've just got to hit that right collector, and I think also because shipping in a tube can be a little bit costly because it's an odd shape and the sizes are strange, sometimes that deters people. So we did not get a bid on this piece. Did not get a bid on this either. I think it's a wonderful piece. It's the Bagatelle, the Push-em-up Streamliner. I actually have this piece for sale now in, gosh, where did this one end up? This one ended up at Tower Avenue Teaks in Centralia, Washington. I'm shifting a lot of my Midwestern merchandise to the West Coast and taking things from the West Coast east because my Florida show season starts pretty soon. And so I am doing a lot of shifting around of merchandise. So a lot of folks out west who may not have gotten to bid on these things because the shipping might have been prohibitive to them will now have a chance to see them in person. And the last item that didn't sell, and we tried, but this is the Dave Fetty designed Fenton Hat for the Red Hat Society. I just love the way the bow and the feathers are attached. It seems like a really difficult piece to make and make well, and you can see Dave Fetty's Fenton logo in the middle there. This is the only piece of Dave Fetty glass that I was not able to sell. We did get up to over $100, but we had a high reserve on this because this piece is hard to find. The controlled bubbles you see in the rim are very well done. It was expensive to make. They actually sold for, I think, as much as $600 when they were new. So $100 just wasn't close enough for the reserve for me to accept, but that's okay because someone at some point will come along who really understands what a great piece this is and is interested in Dave Fetty's glass work. He is 84 years old and he's still blowing glass, but how much longer? Well, we don't know. So that is our wrap-up of these items. And let me come back to you now. And we'll go full cam here. There we are. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this wrap-up on what sold on our eBay Level 2 listings last month. We will have another eBay Level 2 preview coming very soon. For those of you who are Level 2 and Level 3 members, you will have early access and be notified of that. If you are not a member, well, click the join button if you see that below, or go to the links in the description of any video and click memberships, and you can find out how you can get early access to these listings as well. Thank you so much for coming along with me. It's fun to show how these things do at auction. It's an interesting experiment to see where the market is at any given moment in time, and we sure enjoy doing this with you. Thank you so much, and please check out the social media and links in the description below. We will have more fun somewhere in the antique and vintage world very soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.